The Clutch Claw is a powerful tool introduced in Iceborne that lets you knock down monsters, soften their hides, and gain slinger ammo. A massive amount of damage is locked behind mastering the Clutch Claw, and you can regularly raise your damage by 20 to 25% if you know what you're doing. In this guide, I'm going to cover where that damage comes from, and how to get it consistently. Hello hunters, I'm Pike, and welcome to my Clutch Claw guide for Monster Hunter World and Iceborne. The Clutch Claw is a grappling hook that lets you grapple onto monsters where you can perform a variety of special moves. To grapple onto a monster, perform a claw shot by aiming with the left trigger and firing your claw with B. Once you're on the monster, you can move to different parts with the left stick, claw attack with B, weapon attack with Y, and flint shot with the right trigger. You can get thrown off the monster if it attacks with the part of its body that you're hanging onto. You can avoid getting knocked off by waiting for attacks and openings that leave the monster part vulnerable, or you can make your own opening by using special slinger ammo, like piercing pods or bomb pods to flinch the monster. You can also wear special equipment that prevents knockbacks, like the Rocksteady and temporal mantles. If you can't find any openings, you can wait for a clagger. A clagger is short for claw stagger. After taking enough damage, the monster reels back from an attack and drools. During this time, you can safely grapple the monster. Performing a claw shot extends the duration of the clagger, making it safe to perform special claw moves or drop off the monster and continue attacking while it's locked in place. A wallbang is performed by using the flint shot on a monster's head to slam it into a wall. This will deal a good amount of damage and knock the monster down. You can also launch monsters off ledges, out of the air, or into each other. To do this, you must have ammo loaded into your slinger, and the monster cannot be enraged. Enraged is a unique state that causes monsters to move a bit faster and hit a bit harder. Enraged monsters often have access to different attacks as well. While most monsters have visual tells for when they're enraged, you can also check by looking at the icon and the monster pulse on the HUD. The icon changes from yellow to red, and their pulse changes from blue to blue and orange. Monsters normally become enraged after they take enough damage. However, claw attacks and flint shots on the monster's head can force the monster to become enraged. While it might seem like enraging the monster with a wallbang makes the fight more difficult, it generally makes the fight easier for a couple of reasons. Most monsters take more damage when they're enraged. Over half of them take 10 to 20% extra damage when enraged. Even for monsters that don't take bonus damage, you want to get the wallbang for the free knockdown. The monster is going to become enraged eventually, even if you don't use a wallbang, so you may as well get an opening out of it. If the monster is constantly enraged, you can have fantastic uptime on the skill Agitator. Agitator is only active when a monster is enraged, and since it's conditional, it gives more stats than unconditional skills, like attack boost. Agitator is a staple skill in many endgame builds, since keeping the monster enraged with wallbangs is possible. It's possible to get 2 wallbangs before the monster becomes enraged, if you know what you're doing. The secret is minimizing your use of claw attacks when turning the monster. Claw attacks on the monster's face will turn the monster by 90 degrees up to 3 times before the monster becomes enraged. If you turn the monster 2 or 3 times before using the flint shot, you can only get 1 wallbang before the monster becomes enraged. If you don't turn the monster, or only turn it once, it won't be enraged after the first wallbang, which means you can get a second wallbang. The number of times you can turn the monster for the second wallbang is affected by how many times you turned it for your first. If you didn't turn the monster for your first wallbang, you can turn it twice for your second. If you turn the monster once for your first wallbang, you can only turn it once for the second. If that's too much to remember, here are 2 simple rules to follow for 2 wallbangs. 0 or 1 claw attack for the first wallbang. A total maximum of 2 claw attacks for both wallbangs. Claw attacks and weapon attacks build up soften damage that can wound a monster's hide and make them more vulnerable to attacks. A wound lasts for 3 minutes. You need a minimum of 100 soften damage built up to wound a monster part. Claw attacks deal 20 soften damage, and weapon attacks deal higher amounts of soften damage that typically add up to 50 or 100. Weapons fall into 2 categories: heavy weapons that wound in one attack, and light weapons that cause slinger ammo to drop. If you're using a light weapon, you'll generally need to use your weapon attack twice to wound a monster, or use one of these 2 tricks. The first trick is simple. You can use the shaver decoration. With this decoration, light weapons can wound in one weapon attack, and heavy weapons can produce slinger ammo. However, this decoration is only available at the end of the game, which brings us to workaround number 2. You can use claw attacks in combination with your weapon attack to avoid having to grapple on twice. How vulnerable a monster's hide is determined by hit zone values. These values represent the percent of your damage dealt when you hit specific parts. For example, Rathian's legs have a hit zone value of 37, which means her legs only take 37% of the damage we can deal. Rathian's head has a higher hit zone value of 60 and takes 60% of the damage we can deal. These percentages are kept hidden from the player, but if you want to know what they are, you can find the data mine numbers on sites like Kiraniko. When you wound a monster part, its hit zone value goes through this formula. The hit zone difference between a wounded and unwounded part can be massive. One wounded, Rathian's head hit zone of 60 becomes 70. That's roughly a 17% increase in damage. Rathian's legs go from 37 to 52.75, nearly a 30% increase in damage. Generally, a good hit zone is considered to be anything over 45. The game considers anything over 45 to be a weak spot for the skill Weakness Exploit. By itself, Weakness Exploit raises your affinity by 30%. If the part is also wounded, you get 20% more affinity. Affinity is a random chance that your weapon deals a critical hit. Critical hits deal 25% more damage than normal hits. You can enhance the damage a critical hit deals with the skill Critical Boost for 40% more damage on critical hits. Let's wrap this up with a quick example. We're fighting Rathian with only the skills Weakness Exploit and Critical Boost equipped. If we enrage Rathian and wound her head, we gain 10% damage from enraging her, and roughly 17% damage from wounding her head. We also gain roughly 7% more damage from Weakness Exploit fully activating. In total, our damage just went up by 37%. This is before we even consider the damage we can get from a wallbang and knockdown, and we aren't even using Agitator. If you want your hunts to be more efficient, mastering the Clutch Claw will greatly increase your damage potential. If you found this guide helpful, a like would be appreciated. The Longsword Gear Guide and Fatalis Guide are my next big projects. If either of those sound interesting, please consider subscribing.